Hello. So, some of y'all know that I had surgery, and while I was recuperating, which I'm still doing, I had promised that I was going to do a video. So, we had class today, and I thought, well, since I'm in a teaching mood, I might as well just go ahead and do this class with everybody that I had promised. So, we're going to do the class that I promised you all about a week or so ago. In different conversations that I've had with people over the years, a couple of things have bothered me, and I'm going to address those today. Now, as usual, this is my opinion. This is my thinking, my personal emboss. But I think it's important for everybody to have this point of view to kind of think about for themselves. Being a Druid, of course, we know that Druids kind of come back from, hey everybody, a Celtic type pantheon, a Celtic-based religious foundation. And a lot of times, especially here in America, people spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about Celtic lands, Celtic mystical spots in Ireland, Wales, Scotland, England, wherever. And we become very exclusionary. Just made that word up. And we focus on recreating that here in America. And y'all, it just doesn't sit right with me. Because here's the thing. If you go back into the lore of Druids, one of the things that you will find is when Druids went out into the world and traveled, there's tales like with Mag Ruith, traveling into the Middle East to learn from other people, Simon the Magus, magic and stuff. They didn't take their land with them. They went to other places to learn. They didn't try to recreate their homeland where they traveled to. They went there for knowledge. And there are many stories of people traveling and learning and coming back home and taking that knowledge with them. And it's always stuck in the back of my mind. It's always in the back of my mind. Rolling. And what I try to do with my group, and hopefully more people will catch on to this when I kind of lay it out. When we're in ritual, and I know all of y'all have experienced this in ritual that are practitioners, when we honor the ancestors of the land, I don't think people stop and really understand what they're saying at this point, because the rest of the rituals all seem to be about calling in this or that from countries hither and yon. So what I have decided to do, I had a bright idea, and for those of you that know me, sometimes bright ideas can be dangerous. I decided to turn the focus a little bit differently, and I'm going to use some visual aids here in a minute to try to get y'all to understand what I'm talking about. As a Druid, as a magical practitioner, as a priest, I am a native of America. I was born here. My family didn't start getting here till the late 1600s. And I know what their migration was from Maryland on down through into the Appalachians. And when they got to the Appalachians, they mixed in with the Native Americans and kind of blended, like so many of us that still kind of live in the hills and valleys. Their traditional beliefs intermingled with Christianity and Native American, and yes, some African traditions and as well. And that's how you kind of came up with some of these granny magics and mountain witches and that kind of stuff. And those people, especially with my ancestors and the farms and the ridges and the properties that they owned, they never tried to recreate the world they came from. They made the world they were living in theirs. And I think that's important. Let's just hold on to that thought for a minute. So when I go into ritual and I start talking about the spirits of the land, I take that real serious. Excuse the phone shaking. I've got hand tremors and you're going to see me go all over the place. I apologize. Take a Dramamine, sit back, get a drink. It'll be all right. So when you do this ritual and you start talking about recognizing the spirits of the land, as a Druid, one of the things that I think is imperative, and I think anyone that does ritual is imperative to understand, is the knowledge of where your feet are standing. What is the area about? What is the property about? What happened there? You have to understand what you're working with. You just can't say, oh, I honor you. Because all energy affects other energy. It's like quantum mechanics. Thanks, John. It's like quantum mechanics, and what happens is if something touches something, it will forever affect each other. So many people are looking across the ocean for their power, for their inspiration, for their mythology, for their knowledge base. And I got to tell you, we live in the oldest mountains in the whole dang world. The oldest mountains in the world. Now, you explain to me how any other energy anywhere else in the world could be different, more unusual, or special than that. I gotta tell you. We'll have to fight in the yard on that one if you disagree. But going back to what I'm saying about the energy of the land. The property that we just bought, I'm going to walk around here and I'm going to show you some things. The property that we just bought is a very, very old plantation. And how I know that it's a very old plantation is a couple things. I learned my genealogy, and I really hope that all of y'all will start working on that some, because it's real important to understand who your ancestors are and that kind of thing when you start calling on people to help you, because let's face it, our ancestors truly are our base of power. I'm going to just kind of turn this around for just a second. Y'all see that house back yonder, sort of kind of way back off in the distance? Okay. That house is sitting on this big old large piece of property. And I learned about the energy of this place for a couple of reasons, because it became very evident that I needed to. When my family moved out of the hollers after the Revolutionary War, my many G's grandmother ago, Sarah Lane, she had a brother. And her brother, who was a Revolutionary War hero, moved to McMinn County and was instrumental in starting this county up. Now, he bought all this land that I'm standing on back right after the Revolutionary War. And actually, he's buried about a mile that way as the crow flies in the middle of a field. And then later on, after he passed away, as kids do, they sold it off. And this feller named Byrne bought it and became like this famous guy. So the spirit of the land here has ancestral ties to me. Now let's think about it even further back. In the Civil War, there was a Civil War encampment here, because just a little way that way, and those of you that are coming to the house in November will see it, is one of the oldest still functioning railroad stations from the Civil War in the States. So this area was very active with troops going hither and thither. So we now have another level of energy mixed in to this area. What does that all mean, Angela? Why is that important? Well, here's the thing. When you're dealing with the energy of the land, you have to understand all its personalities. You have to understand what you're dealing with. You just can't blanketly say, oh, it's some sort of awesome kind of menthol, spearmint, chewing gum flavor, Michael. You can't just overlook that and brush it under the carpet. And so many people do, and it drives me nuts. So whenever I'm doing ritual, I like to understand the energy of the land that I'm working with. Now, is that a Druid thing? Yeah. Do all Druids do it? No. I don't know why. But they seem to ignore, and other people do it too, just not Druids. I mean, I've seen it done by all flavors of pagans, but they ignore the energy of where they are. And they're so focused on Europe and drawing that over here. I mean, come on. If you had a house fire, do you want to rely on a hose that's coming to pump water to your house that's thousands of miles long and your house is burning? Or do you want to plug into a pump that's right here in your yard? That should be a no-brainer, but again, folks don't get it. So I promised y'all I was going to come on here and do some talking, so I'm a-talking. So when you get to doing your rituals, or you can take a piece of the country that you came from. That is not the issue here. We no longer live in Europe. We live in America, most of us on my Facebook page. Why the hell are we not utilizing what we got right here? Explain that to me. Why? Why do we not call on the energy? Why do we not deal with the forces of nature that are here? In East Tennessee, in the forest here, we live in what's technically called a rainforest. There are more types of trees in this area than any place in the world. Think about that. So that brings up another subject. Working with sacred plants, trees, and wood. We all know that's a Druid thing. But here's where the rub comes in. Unless you're part of the sacred wood pile and have an ohm attached to you, it's negated as not being relevant. Who made that rule? Who made that rule? Because I guarantee you that I can walk up to any tree, bush, shrub, plant that I encounter here in America and utilize it exactly the way that I can use the woods that are labeled in the poem. Oh, but Angela, that's not traditional. Says who? Explain to me that one. Because here's another thing. You can't tell me that Druids would not have. I'm sure they did, but let's just say they were brought forward into the future here to the U.S. Do you honestly think that they would be sitting here trying to connect to power places and to trees from Europe? Or do you think that they would plug into the batteries and the energies that are here? Go ahead, I'll wait. Y'all think about it a minute. So, when we talk about cultural pillaging, where people will take bits and pieces of a certain pathway and utilize it. How sometimes people get their robes in a wad over that, and I get it, I understand. But here's the thing. In each one of our pantheons, in each one of our traditions, we are given guidelines on how to use certain things. Now you can take that and you can use it as a template and lay it over the top of other things. It's like let's talk about like a sycamore tree, or we can talk about a rhododendron. We can talk about a pink lady slipper. We can talk about a mimosa tree. We can talk about a magnolia tree. Now, you can take what you've learned from studying the traditional literature of trees and plants and lay that over the top of another plant, find the similarities, and utilize it. It's not that hard. Also, ley lines, dragon lines, fey lines, whatever you call them, they're not just in England. They run all across the world and out into space. Why are we just so focused on Europe? Why are we ethnocentric when we live in a melting pot? I don't know. Why do we exclude things? Because it's not from this Celtic land or that Celtic land when we don't live in a Celtic land. Did you hear me? We don't live in a Celtic land. We live here. So guess what that means? That means that we're going to have to use what we got here. In a case of emergency, I guarantee you I can pick up something and utilize it and use it. Because in our studies, and for those of you that are just beginning your journeys, you learn things. You learn how to utilize things. You learn that all the bells and whistles are not really needed. You just need this. And that's pretty doggone awesome, I think. So, we ignore what's in front of us. We don't use what's in front of us. I can tell you that some of the other traditions in the world don't do that. It seems to me that it's more along the Germanic and Celtic people that do this. Let's talk about African traditions and more of the Caribbean traditions. Let's face it, we brought those folks here. They didn't want to come. We did. Look what we did to them. You know what they up and done? They adapted and changed. They utilized what was here, incorporated it into their traditions, and you know what happened? They became more powerful because they attached themselves and plugged in to where they were. Y'all think about that for a second. So we get snobby. Well, my backyard ain't special, Angela. It don't have no stone circle. It don't have no corn back there. There's no hole that was supposedly claimed to have been made by a giant falling down and her titty getting stuck in the ground, and then you're going to call it giant titty for the rest of eternity. It ain't special. Well, got to tell you, dirt's dirt, earth's earth, trees are trees, plants are plants, people are people. It's up to you. So, going through everything over the next little bit, I want you to think about it. I challenge you to find out the histories and the myths of the areas that y'all live in. Find out. So when you call upon and you recognize the ancestors of the land that you're working with in that ritual, you really know what you're plugging into, and you can prepare for it. Now, one of the things I've discovered, since I do have ancestral ties to this property, that it's really easy for me to plug in too. But then you have that energy of war, chaos, and confusion. And yes, slavery. So when we're calling upon the ancestors of the land, I feel that it's respectful and proper when we do these things to truly honor those people. And I don't mean just going out there and chucking some meat on the ground and calling it done, or throwing some potato salad out there and doing the, I bless it, there you go, it's for you to eat. I think that's rude as hell. Would you do that to a guest at your house? Just, throw some shit at them and there you go. Just because you don't see it with your physical eye all the time doesn't mean it's not there. But the moral of my story is this. I'm real tired of, unless it's from across the pond, it ain't worth nothing. Well, I reckon that makes me not worth nothing, because I'm choosing to honor and I'm choosing to work with what I got right here. Yes, that also includes Native American energy and respect to those ancestors. People living and dead, it's kind of hard to know exactly who they were, but at the same time, it's important to recognize any sacrifice that was made. And as far as working with a tree, or seeing that it's holy and that it's connected to the web of life. And here's something else before I'm going off on another rabbit hole. Listen to me. We preach as priests that we are all connected by this web of life. Okay, there's no tree or plant that is more connected than another. There's no animal or person that's more connected in that web than another. So to single out a plant, an animal, a place, even a doggone time is just asinine to me. It might be my mountain simplicity, maybe so. But I choose to respect and work with what I got. And you know what that is? A whole hell of a lot if you know what to look for. Does that mean that I don't respect my Celtic ancestry? Hell no. Come on now. But I can tell you what it does do. It double dips me in a world of spirituality that I've never, ever experienced before. To be completely plugged into time and place of where you are is something else. Now, to only have those energies rooted into something that no longer exists in this plane, that no longer is, I don't want to say active because that's not the right word, that is no longer physically tied to you in a way that it would be if you lived there. It's just makes no sense because we're here. And I guarantee you that our magical ancestors, our priests and priestesses of the past would look at us like, what are they doing? They're not over here, they're over there. Why can't they work with what they got? They're not happy with the oldest mountains in the world or one of the largest, most amazing, diverse landscapes of any continent in the world. Such rich historical culture. I think they would find that offensive. I would think that they would find it offensive that we were being that we would exclude folk from something because they're not from here. You got, seriously, no, I'm not drinking. John, this is me when I get wound up. You just gotta have to deal with it. This is what happens when the Druid wants to teach about something. Teach and preach. So, as you all travel about, I really want you to just think about why you do some of the things you do. Is it because it's always been done that way? If so, what are the reasons that it's done that way? Why is the energy of this place negated? Why is the religious practices of the Aboriginal peoples of where we are negated? Because they didn't cut mistletoe on the top of a tree with a golden sickle in another country. That's my side eye. So, here's the thing. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to teach my students that thing. And hopefully that thing will grow. In this exclusionary practice and this ignoring the power, the raw dang power of this place, hopefully that'll spread a little bit. Because a place of power, Europe does not hold the copyright on it. You understand me? We have places of power here. And if you don't have one in your area, get off your lazy ass and make one. Like our ancestors did. Yeah, I'm preaching. I'm pissed. We've got work to do. Our world is crumbling around us, and we're arguing over, you can't use that tree because there ain't no ohm to go with it. Or, we can't include that because it's not from a Celtic or Germanic tradition. Kiss my ass. There's not a person on the face of the planet that has completely full 100% blood of any kind. We live in America that is a melting pot. And if your family has been here over 100 years, guess what? You're a mutt. You are. Get over it. You're a mutt. So that means by being born here, your vibrational frequencies are already tuned to this pitchfork of the U.S. Use what you have and quit hoping and praying that you're going to lasso something special from across the pond. For real, y'all. Just burns my biscuits. So much underutilized stuff. And again, going back to our world today, it's crumbling all around us. It's crumbling all around us, and we're bitching and moaning about this and that when we need to be unified and working on something that's going to make a difference. The world's not going to stop spinning on its axis if you go out there and make you a wand out of magnolia and use it. The world's not going to stop spinning if you go out there in the woods or your front yard or your backyard, I don't really care, and make you something of your own that tunes into the property that you have. For those of you that don't own property, you can go to a park, take your shoes off, walk barefooted on the ground. Connect to where you are. It's real funny. Do you honestly think that when Druids were traveling around, or witches were traveling around, or other magical folk, that when they got into other countries that they moaned and bitched and only wanted to use things from their land? Heck no. And you know what's funny? When we're digging up grave sites now, which I don't agree with, but anyway, the grave goods are showing trade with countries and places so far away from the Celtic world. Guess what? That means they went there for a reason, and it wasn't to buy no damn glass bead, I promise you. So, okay, I'll be in there in a minute. Leave your Grammy alone. I'm preaching. Okay. Okay, get back in the house. Thank you, grandkids. So, use what you got. Connect to what you got. Learn about your area. Learn about the people in your family. Understand what you're working with. And then call upon them to help us get the hell out of the mess that we're in. Yeah, I'm calling out a global call. Let's work with what we got and change something. Does that make me any less of a druid if I don't all the time call upon the spirits of Ireland or Scotland? Come say that to my face and we'll fight in the yard, okay? What that makes me is a smart one. And I really believe that's what our ancestors did. I truly do. They used what they had where they were. If y'all have any questions, comments, complaints, you know where to find me. But I made a doggone promise to y'all I was going to come talk about it. And just as soon as Granny Druid here could get some clothes on and not be bleeding on herself from surgery, I jumped on here to do it. We had class today, and I was already in teaching mode, and I thought, now's the time for me to break that egg and see if people scramble it or what. Know that I love you. Know that I pray for every single one of you. I do. I hope all of you are blessed beyond your wildest imaginations and have all the desires of your heart, unless that's to kick my ass, and then you're not going to have that one. And for those of y'all that are coming to my event in November, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and having a good time. And for those of you that have never seen me speak, I'm extremely blunt and a little bit on the feisty side. And just because I have an Appalachian drawl don't mean I'm stupid. It just means that I'm slower to get at you. But I will. Anyway, love y'all. I mean it. Y'all be blessed. And I'll often listen to what I'm talking about, because I really think that it's going to increase your work, make your workings more powerful and easier for you. Alrighty now. Be blessed. This Druid is just signing out. Love y'all. Bye.